My name is Brett Merlin. I'm with Camp Technical Adventure Equipment, and today we're excited to be here to introduce the new Alpinist Tech Crampon. The Alpinist Tech was designed to climb waterfall ice and mixed climbing at the highest level in the big mountains. We've really developed the Alpinist line to fully accommodate the needs of the modern alpinist in any kind of terrain. The new Alpinist Tech is a fixed upper platform with a slightly offset monopoint and a little shovel point off to the side to provide really great support in really technical ice, while still being fully functional in hyper-technical mixed climbing scenarios. Other nice things that we did with the Alpinist Tech, we've included a lot of different points underneath the upper platform, and these are really great for when you're stomping on really technical cauliflower ice and moving from one ice blob to the next, mixed climbing in between, and then climbing the tiny little pillar that connects them all. So this is really a great technical ice and mixed climbing crampon available for the big mountains. Very similar to like the rest of the crampons in the Alpinist family, we've got a lot of fine-tune adjustment actually built into the linking bar with these two offset holes. These offset holes will allow you to integrate into either one of the hole rows to get a very precise fit for your boot. This is a really robust way to make sure that the fit is secure and will stay that way. We do have a little bit of micro adjustment as well in these three different tiers in the back heel bell. In general, the Alpinist family all have the same exact backing. And so if you're interested in really pursuing the entire scope of the Alpinist line, we do have all the front parts available for individual sale for $99.95. The Alpinist Tech Crampon will sell for $250. It will also include anti-balling plates in the packaging, but it will not be mounted onto the products. And yeah, this is going to be a phenomenal crampon to take ice climbing to really high levels in the big mountains. Looking at our entire line, we effectively have the Blade Runner, the best waterfall ice crampon out there. Incredible story of making it modular for different ice conditions. The Alpinist line with the Alpinist as a really nice asymmetrical, great rigid walking crampon that's designed for super technical mountaineering and even a bit of mixed climbing and the occasional ice here and there. Great crampon for spring cascades bashing in rock and ice and just super rugged terrain. The Alpinist Pro with two big obvious vertical fixed front points, which is fantastic for a lot of meat and potato ice climb, alpine ice, things of that nature, fit the bill really well. And then the Alpinist Tech for the super technical thin ice climbs, ice blobs with some mixed climbing in between, so that you can really have the right tool for the job, for the route that you're doing in that condition in that day. At camp, we really believe in having the exact right tool for the job and not necessarily just having one crampon that does everything at a mediocre level. Choose the right tool for the job, get it done, you're gonna have a better day. This will for sure be great for those that are, climbing ice cragging. One of the things that's nice about the Alpinist line, compared to the Blade Runner, which is super modular, there's a lot more pieces and parts being involved with that. All those different pieces and parts, they can move and shift, and not to dissuade anyone from using them, but this is just a much simpler design overall. So there's kind of less to worry about in that way. When you have less junctures and less moving parts, you create a much more rigid system in general, and a lot more robustness in the overall design. So looking at the two different toe profiles, one of the things that you'll notice with these two, if we kind of try to compare them apples to apples, in general with the Blade Runner, you're going to notice that the secondary point is a little bit more pronounced. Secondary point are these points right here, when we kind of put these bales right next to one another in those holes. And that front point's a little bit more pronounced. This can be great for steep waterfall ice climbing. That means we have to lower our heel a little bit less to engage that secondary point. It's way easier. If that secondary point isn't quite as pronounced, we need to really drop our heel a little bit more. And the advantages of that are obvious, easier to ice climb. Disadvantages of having a more pronounced front point is that in your gait when you're walking around, those pronounced front points are going to interrupt the step a little bit more. It's not going to be as round and natural step. So the Alpinist line is a little bit less pronounced, which allows you to walk around in the big mountains a little bit more compared to a Blade Runner. You get to weigh those pros and cons and kind of what you want better. And so for ice cragging on a steep column, the Blade Runner is really going to do a great job. The Alpinist is going to walk a little bit better. It's going to mix climb a little bit better as well. The front point of the Alpinist isn't quite as pronounced off the front of the boot, so you get a little bit less leverage on there, which means you're not going to activate your calf quite as much when you're just on those tiny little edge off your front point. Another important thing in mixed climbing that's nice is being able to have that rotation around an edge. With the Blade Runner, with these extra little trident points off the side, those can skip and maybe sometimes hit a side of the rock and then kick off the front point because they're so pronounced and so close to the mono point. With the Alpinist Tech, you'll have a little bit more clearance and float on that to give you more mobility on those tiny little edges, while still being able to ice climb super well. And then having the little shovel point off to the side really helps to support this front point, especially considering the fact that these secondary points aren't quite as pronounced as the Blade Runner secondary points. Both are going to be awesome for ice climbing, but you kind of get to choose what's important to you. And again, that kind of goes back to having the right tool for the job, the route you're going to climb on that day. It's also really nice to have a highly technical crampon without the price point of a Blade Runner. The Blade Runner sells for $350 and is incredibly modular. It does all kinds of really neat features, including the Sandvik steel on the back. The Alpinist Tech is a full chromoly steel. Chromoly is really great for taking a lot of impact, and it sells for only $250. Just one size in the Alpinist Tech. The Blade Runner is 2 sizes. It does have a little bit of the heel bump. It's not going to squeeze quite as much as a Blade Runner does because that ramp is a little bit more rounded as opposed to square. So you're not going to get as much of a squeeze effect on the boot, but it also allows us to have a bigger fit range in just one size. And that squeeze really comes into play when you're kicking in ice climbing. And so if you're kind of mixed climbing, kind of ice climbing, it's a little bit less important. Boot and crampon compatibility, especially in the toe box, is a really important thing. Different boots have different depth and widths of toe welts, and that can be a real struggle for some ice climbers. One thing I wanted to highlight was the automatic bail on all our Alpinist crampons is a little bit different than the Blade Runner bail. It has a little bit of a tighter bend in here, which really helps to nest the toe welt of the boot very, very well, so you get less shifting. If you want a little insider information, if you've got a really narrow toe bail on a Blade Runner and you're getting a little bit of shiftiness, you can purchase the Alpinist toe bail separately and put that on the Blade Runner and see if that works for you.